Yes. All right, Brigitte, welcome to the Rooted Remedies podcast.
Thank
Um,
you.
the focus of the show really is oral health and our children and how we can keep them healthy and happy using unconventional or rooted remedies, right? So I love the idea of herbalism. I actually promote it and use it myself. Um, you have an impressive resume. So I'm curious if you could share a little bit of your background, but honestly, what's been your most impressive aha moment or transformation that you've had with herbalism or unique experience that you'd love to share?
Hey, well, I've been working with herbal medicine. I'm 71, but since I was very, very young, my French Canadian grandmother used herbs, and I thought that that was just amazing folk remedies. And she lived way north in Canada. And I mean, there really was no choice. There was one doctor in the town, and he might be gone fishing. And I went to an all-girls boarding school, and there I really just like try things out on my friends. Here, try Rescue Remedy, try some chamomile tea. Let's see what happens if you take calcium for your cramps and magnesium. So I just found that these things really worked, and I've been doing it for so long. The most impressive thing, boy, there's so many. And I really don't claim to heal people. I teach people what they can do to help themselves. So I really try to empower people to take more responsibility for their health rather than, my doctor's going to fix me. It's like, well, you can do things to help too. And you can also do your best not to cause health issues. So, but there are really thousands and thousands of ideas and things that have happened over the years. So,
I find also that it's been my personal experience that the plant world, obviously being alive, also tries to remind us of our own consciousness, our own ability to heal, our everything. And so, really, my fantasy is that every family has, or extended family has an herbalist in it that can say, hey, I think you're going through this or you're going through that. Here's some thing that I grew or something that I harvested. How can we encourage parents to cultivate a relationship with the natural world? Because modern society is really stacked up against that, regardless of whether it's intentional or not. I find that I don't know if you saw the most recent publication came out that the average child is only outside 5 to 7 minutes a day, and that's actually less than a maximum security inmate. They get more sunlight than kids.
that's amazing. Yeah, and the whole COVID thing didn't help with, school being on Zoom and people, being even less afraid to speak to each other. So, I do think that bringing children to beautiful places in nature, that's always a good place to introduce them to spirituality, sometimes even more so than just being in a church, like, oh, look at the fall leaves or look at these mountains or the beauty of creation. And one thing about the plants is we are imbibing sacred geometry. We've all seen the Facebook and Instagram pictures of when you magnify something, whether it be a grain of pollen or a blade of grass, like the beauty and the sacred geometry. And it's amazing how it just abounds. But certainly nature crafts for children, uh, being in harmony with the seasons, having kids grow vegetables, they're going to be a lot more likely to eat them if they see that miracle, like, plant a carrot seed, harvest a carrot seed, getting kids to be more involved in making the food rather than just being, this is what we're eating, you know, like it or leave it. But I do find that kids become a lot more receptive when we give them choices and we include them. And it's true, I've seen 1-year-old babies freaking out about their iPad being taken away, having a tantrum at 1 years old. And unfortunately, this is what's really going on. And so having time, my kids are all grown, my teenagers are all in their 20s, but I do see that this is a real dilemma, but taking them to beautiful places, exploring the sciences, giving them a magnifying glass or a little telescope, To see the worlds within worlds can also be very inspirational. Nature crafts. I know the whole Waldorf school education is very much about that, in harmony with the seasons. And even things like, learn how to make bread, learn how to make applesauce, learn how to make butter. We're so disconnected from how food is made, and that can be a really great place to start.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's actually one of the core things that it's so simple, right? It's connect to the seasons, connect to the outside world, and you will be provided for. That's kind of a very simple message. I find because of the screen and because of just modern life, it's kind of hard to penetrate to people. It's kind of hard to get through them. And really what I love about holistic dentistry and all that stuff is that the results are fairly easy, fairly palpable, and quick. You can see results fairly quickly if you just make some simple changes. So I would say how so we've got going out into nature as a concept, we've got bridging or making our own food. How can a parent kind of subscribe to or begin to implement herbalism in their child? I know there's, like we said, seasonality, so certain plants come out at certain times, I'm sure for certain reasons. Um, so how can we begin to lean into that process? And my demographic, the people that I kind of appeal to, are already naturally inclined. But just in case, there's someone new who could be excited to this, how do we begin to incorporate it into our lives? I've actually, my children are young, they're 3 and almost 2. And so for me, it's a challenge to go foraging with them because it's just run around, but I'm doing it. I measured walks. Okay, this is where we're going to go. This is the perimeter. But yeah, how can a parent, relatively modern, start to bring in and incorporate concepts of herbalism into their children's lives?
Well, one thing is learning to identify plants, and sometimes even playing a game like, Survivor Island. Like, is there anything around here that you could possibly eat? Malva, cheese wheels, the plant Malva neglecta. It's a really easy to identify seed capsule. And I had my granddaughter collect the little seed capsules and put them in vinegar to make little pickles. And then on Thanksgiving, we made a big hoopla, like, look at the pickles Luna made. But one of the things I did with my kids is when they were young, of course, they would roll their eyes at just about anything that I did. As they get older, I hope that doesn't happen to you. But I would, they would always ask, kids want money. I say, I'll give you a quarter for every plant you can identify, 50 cents if you know the Latin name, and then $1 if you can tell me 3 uses of the plant. And then I would see them walking down the alley and pointing out to things to their friends like, oh, that's shepherd's purse, you can stop bleeding. And I do find sometimes kids will receive things from someone other than their parents, especially if it's a family friend, because I know that I would do my best, but then my one of my daughters, Rainbow, took an herb class. She got paid for babysitting by being offered this herb class, and all of a sudden she's making tinctures for her friends and giving them remedies and finding out that they worked. I also would reward my kids for things that they were doing. I thought it was very important for them to learn how to make healthy food. So when they got a little older, I would say, these are the cookbook parameters that we're using. And if you tell me on Monday what we need, I'll buy all the ingredients. And then they get all this praise, and then they've got a really great skill of making food. And I think there's so many families that they don't eat a meal together. And I think it's so important to have that moment of mindfulness and connection. Was your day? And of course, you get like all this praise if you make something. Kids can learn to grow sprouts. That's a really easy thing for them to have a way to contribute to the family's meal. So even though kids can be picky about vegetables, the fact that they could grow sprouts in a jar or grow sunflower seeds in a tray of dirt. And another way that we can encourage kids to eat, because the media is like, okay, buy this junk food, but getting kids to go to the produce section with you and give them the assignment. You need to pick out 3 red things that you're willing to eat. And then maybe the next week they pick out in the produce section, not the cereal section, 3 orange foods, 3 yellow foods. And the fact that they got to have a choice about that. Yes, I like watermelon. Yes, I like cherry tomatoes. Yes, I like, cantaloupe for orange. That way you're fostering their acknowledgement. And of course, each color has different nutrients in it, whether it be lycopene or beta carotene or chlorophyll. And so my grandchildren would call me and say, Grandmère, I ate something blue today. I ate something yellow. And I want to hear about the greens tomorrow too. But the color thing seems to work really well.
Okay, color theory. All right, beautiful. Um, so I know that there's a lot of I don't want to say animosity, heat around essential oils versus herbalism versus homeopathy. I'd love your wisdom in the whole thing. My opinion is it's all plant material, right? It's all processed in different ways. So I imagine, are there plants that are optimal in certain forms, like they just perform better as an essential oil, or in homeopathic? Yeah, just elaborate what your take on all of that is, and how you, with your children, implemented all those different things.
Well, there's a lot of herbs that can provide minerals for them. And so when I think about healthy teeth and bones, I think of herbs like nettles. I think of raspberry leaf. A lot of women start drinking raspberry leaf when they're pregnant, which is really high in calcium, magnesium, and iron. And in some parts of the world, it's assumed that for every child you have, you'll probably lose a tooth. And so the babies will draw, from your nutrient supply. So it's really important for the pregnant mom to drink things so that she doesn't develop osteoporosis from having multiple children or lose too many teeth. So I love the herb nettles. I love horsetail, which is really high in calcium and silica. It should only be harvested in the springtime. So drinking herbal teas is really nice because we all know we need more liquids, and the herbs that taste good are going to work really well. A beverage. I will also say that when my children were young, I found that if I gave them a lot of milk or cheese to drink, they would become more phlegmy and have constant like runny noses. So I figured out I'm just going to give them the teas that the cows would eat as a vegetable, like red clover blossom and alfalfa
Oh,
are
yeah.
both so mineral rich. And then you can always add a little bit of fennel or anise, which makes the tea sweet. But then there's also herbs that maybe we need to do as a medicine. And so there's herbs that you can get in a tincture bottle. Okay. But tinctures usually have alcohol in them. And so kids usually don't like the taste of it, nor should they be drinking alcohol. There is a company based in Colorado called Wish Garden Herbs, and they make formulas that are in a vegetable glycerin based. So they actually taste better. And they're very conscientious about what would be a safe cold and flu formula for a pregnant mom or a nursing mom or for an infant. So they make great products like, cramps or for hot flashes. So they do a whole line for women and children, and they taste good. Now, essential oils are going to work for plants that have a strong aromatic quality to them. But I want to say that essential oils are not as environmental. If I wanted to make a cup of peppermint tea, it would be a lot more environmental just to use a teaspoon of dried peppermint leaves than to use a drop of peppermint essential oil. And of course, most essential oils really should not be taken internally because they could be processed in a way, and they're not really, they're more for external use or just for smelling. But I do love, for example, kids, might be freaking out or have a tantrum like smelling lavender oil, get you to breathe deeply. Breathing is good to calm our nervous system. You could put a drop on the pillow to help you sleep. But we don't want to be ingesting essential oils unless you really know what you're doing and you're using a tiny amount and it's a brand that's conducive to being used. And then there's also herbal capsules and tablets. And, a lot of times kids can't swallow capsules. So a trick I learned was, you practice with really small capsules, like a vitamin A. You put it in your mouth. What people usually do is they put the capsule in their mouth and then they drink water and then the capsule floats to the front. But if you put the capsule in your mouth and then drink water and then lean your body forward or your head forward, it's going to go to the back of your throat and lump. So, I found it a big relief if my kids didn't have to drink teas, but maybe they needed an herb like echinacea and you want for a cold or flu and you want them to take it a lot frequently. If they could swallow a capsule, or I could put a tincture made in glycerin in water, that would be great. So those are a few ideas on the delivery systems. And, for really little kids, you can also add your herbal teas to the bath water. So, for example, you have a teething baby and really grouchy, you can make a calming herb like catnip, for example. I know it makes cats excited, but it's actually very calming to children. So you can make a catnip tea and then bathe the baby in a relaxing herb, because our skin is also another method of delivery.
Wonderful, wonderful. Um, so if you had a new or a pregnant woman that would give you her ear, what would you tell her right now?
I would say you have one chance to do it right per baby, and really eat a big salad every day. Try to eat all the colors of the rainbow. Do it for your baby, even if you feel nauseous. You really should try to get a lot of minerals, enough protein. And I love the herbs for pregnant women, raspberry leaf and nettles. Nettles is so mineral dense. I just wrote a book called Nettle Power. Um, I have them upstairs, Nettle Power. But nettles, Rudolf Steiner said nettles are the heart of the world, and nettles are so mineral rich. And I think they really do help to build strong bones, strong teeth. They nourish the kidneys, the adrenals. They help prevent allergies. Nettles is actually a really great herb for people that have multiple allergies. So I would say, yeah, pregnant women do that and do it for your baby, and really try to minimize any exposure to chemicals, preservatives, even, prescription drugs that sometimes they're not tested on pregnant women. And
Right.
yet they're being used by pregnant women. You find out, oh, that wasn't really a good idea. And I do think prenatal yoga is a great thing to do. And if you want the birth to go well, if you want to be able to have a natural drug-free childbirth, which, doesn't work for everybody, but you need to put some energy into it while you're pregnant, not just, show up at the hospital and expect it's all going to go the way you want. Maybe you need to take the prenatal yoga class, do the herbs, do the compresses, take the prenatal vitamins, learn about techniques to stay calm, breathing technique or hypno breathing. So plan it so you don't just become subject to the whims of your contractions and end up freaking out and not knowing how to navigate, to be like a Buddha on a surfboard to navigate the perils of childbirth.
Yeah, and in an institution that loves to, you know, have C-sections and medical procedures and yeah, yes, absolutely. So in your eyes, is calcium the only thing that you're looking for in terms of supporting good bones and good teeth, and what else or what other minerals or teas or whatever should we take into consideration with our kids? Because you hear calcium, 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 and I know, for example, in pasteurized dairy, all that stuff is denatured, so they're not going to absorb any calcium from, especially ultra pasteurized. And even I've read that the homogenized dairy is also problematic because your body can't discern what it is because it's all one fluid thing. And so, yeah, so besides calcium from the nettles, which for my second pregnancy, I had my nettle infusion every day and I felt better. And I think I recovered a lot better. But yeah, calcium, what else should we keep in mind in terms of supporting our children's bones and teeth?
Well, a lot of these things occur together anyways, but calcium, magnesium, zinc, boron, vitamin D, which we get from sunlight. So it's a wide plethora, and very often, tablets, what they might not even be that absorbable. So it could be a form like it's, made out of seashells or ground up rocks like dolomite. So, that's your food store and find one that's very bioavailable. I usually look for minerals that are citrate or some combination. But again, there are foods like seaweed is really high in minerals. It grows in the mineral rich brine of the ocean, and those minerals that are in the seaweed are also in our bones, our sweat, our tears. And so the kids don't even need to know that you're putting a little piece of wakame or kombu when you cook a pot of rice or beans. The minerals are going into the water. You can give them herbal teas as another way to give them minerals that are going to be very full spectrum. And again, herbs that I love to give kids: red clover blossom, alfalfa, peppermint, lemon balm. I'm not big on giving kids fruit juice because that's like a big sugar rush. But if you give them an herbal tea, you could put just a little bit of fruit juice in there as a sweetener. Another sweetener we could use is soaking some unsulfured dried fruit like figs or dates, and then using some of that soak water would also be a great thing. And, getting them to even rinse their mouth after a meal, or, um, teaching them good dental hygiene. I know it's tricky. I'm sure that I would as a kid, maybe you did that too, like eat a little toothpaste and then your parents would smell that your breath smelled fresh, but you really brush, like, we got to watch out for that, because kids, like, they want extra story time or TV time or something, and they're not always. I always like to say, be true to your teeth or they'll be false to you.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's really good. Yeah, like I said, my children are younger, so I find, and the way I like to teach people is, if you do the initial investment up front of, I'm gonna not helicopter, but I'm definitely gonna watch and make sure that they're doing it and do it with them, it kind of sets the tone and the pattern of, well, I know what it feels like to have a clean mouth, so I should go and do it. And yeah, kids are gonna be kids and they're gonna kind of eat the toothpaste. And but what I found interesting is, more than the brushing and the flossing twice a day, it's appearing in a whole new, not new, but quantum biology angle, is to ameliorate the reasons why they have plaque buildup. I found that fascinating. So it's, yeah, you want to brush and floss, but it's more of, are you getting enough sunlight? Are you too much on the screen? Apparently, the screen causes insulin spikes as if you were diabetic. And so your pancreas is working overtime when you think you're just watching TV. And I found that really, really interesting.
Yeah, and kids are often sleeping with their cell phones next to them, and the light of when you're in a dark room and looking at a phone or a screen, it's even more intense. And light pollution,
Yeah.
it's a real deal. And I do think we're going to need to adapt, because it just seems to not be going away. There's
No.
more electromagnetic energy. And that's why I keep going back to the power of the weeds, the dandelion, the nettles, the malva, the violets. They adapt, and we need to be able to adapt. I mean, certainly I've heard that when electricity was introduced into the culture in the early hundreds, a lot of people felt like it was compromising their immunity. But now there's even more things that are compromising, different kinds of pollution. I looked up at the sky yesterday, and what are all those like white
Yesterday
streaks
was
going?
crazy. I live in Boulder as well.
Yesterday
Yesterday was crazy.
yeah, there was a lot. So we're going to do our best to adapt. And again, the weeds do adapt, and that's why I think one of the healthiest things we can do is use the dandelion. And kids love flowers. I mean, that's one of the early things that they learn to identify. And the idea that if you're not spraying your yard, if you don't have pets in the yard, like, kids can learn that they can harvest some of these things and make things with it. One of the things I learned not too long ago, even though I wrote a book called Dandelion Medicine, is you can even like take the stems of the dandelion, boil them in water, and then toss them with olive oil and garlic and make dandelion noodles.
Oh,
And
wow.
so kids think that's kind of fun, or dandelion flowers are edible. Kids like to make a wish on the dandelion. So unfortunately, kids can recognize a lot more logos and
Yeah.
not as plants. So there's a phone app called Picture This, which you can use to identify the names of plants. We can get kids to make little plant pressings and name where you press the flowers and use that to make a bookmark. My daughter, Sunflower, is a preschool teacher, so they do a lot of nature crafts, and that, really helps them to have the kids get to pick grapes and raspberries and, have that joy.
Beautiful. All right. Let people know what you're up to now. What books are you working on? Any books right now? I know I saw something about end of life. You're helping people out with that. I thought that was
Yes, I'm an end of life doula. I'm a psychedelic sitter. I have a private practice. My latest book is called Natural Remedies for Mental and Emotional Health. It's all about depression, anxiety, grief, fear, brain injury, memory. And again, my intention is really just to, give people ideas on things they can do. It's not only herbs, it's food, it's lifestyle, it's color, it's essential oils. And, even if you are getting great medical care, there might be things that you can do that's going to help the outcome to be more positive. I heard someone at a party say, I have high blood pressure, but my doctor's going to get it down. I said, well, don't you think you should help?
yeah.
Maybe meditation or drinking hawthorn berry tea or backing off a coffee, that those would also be ways that you could help. Why not? And so with our kids, it's a delight and it's a challenge, and we signed up for it.
We
So
did.
all the best.
All right, Brigitte. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day. And yeah, would you like to give some parting words of wisdom just to anybody who could encounter you for the first time watching this?
Yeah, on my website, BrigitteMars.com, there's all kinds of recipes, remedies, articles. Have fun with that. And, teach your children well, put some good information on the hard drive. Even if they stray from it for a while, they'll come back eventually.
I agree. I agree.
So much. Blessings to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.